Hello and welcome to In the Money Media's new top 10 list for the 2024 Kentucky Derby. PTF here with JK, and we're about to unveil our new list. But first and foremost, let's get to some old business. Let's button up our most recent comment contest. We had a cold exacta, and I'll tell you, this one wasn't that hard in the fact that all you had to do to get this cold exacta was follow us in with the two horses that we liked in the Louisiana Derby, because we basically gave out this exacta, JK, with you liking Catching Freedom and me liking Honor Marie. We'll talk about the race a little bit later in this show, but claps to Nolan Rogers for giving out that exacta. Had a few other people who hit it as well in the comments, but Nolan gets the nod because he only used those two runners. And it's actually kind of a perfect segue right into this video, because as we unveil our new top 10, you see there that number 10 on the list is in fact Honor Marie, the horse that I put forward for the Louisiana Derby. Ran pretty well at a very big price, ultimately not good enough to get to Catching Freedom, but a very nice effort from Honor Marie, who's short for the return to the races by all accounts. Definitely the screws a bit tightened for this. We'll need another big move forward to be a serious contender, to be number one in the Kentucky Derby, I would say. But this 96 Beyer speed figure did represent a career best. I was impressed with Honor Marie. How about you, JK?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that anytime you can have a horse who could show the talent that Honor Marie showed at 2, and then kind of sustain that run into their 3-year-old year, they're always going to be dangerous when it comes to these big stakes races, including the Kentucky Derby.
Mystic Dan is number 9 on our list. This is the horse hasn't been seen since the big win in Arkansas. Maybe it was on the best part of the track, but boy, having a triple-digit Beyer speed figure at this point, that's enough to get you on the top 10. We're going to see Mystic Dan again before Kentucky Derby time, and we'll find out, was that 100 a product of circumstances, or did it represent a new level of ability? Because if it did, and he moves forward, another legit contender for the Roses on the first Saturday in May. Where are you with Mystic Dan?
Yeah, same thing as you. I want to see. We know that racetrack did, from based on what we saw on Rebel Day. We know that racetrack on Southwest Day was one in which it felt like it was leaning a little bit towards horses that like to be on the inside or wanted to be on the inside. That was where you wanted to be. I need to see him to prove it to move forward any higher on the list for me.
Number 8 is Conquest Warrior. This is a horse the jury very much out on, but more of the jury may be making up their minds after next weekend. Conquest Warrior making the return to the races in the Florida Derby. We're going to have a whole other video about the Florida Derby, and we will encourage you to hopefully click on that one when this one is finished, once that one gets dropped as well. Conquest Warrior, I'm going to save my thoughts for him on the other video, frankly, because I do think he's an interesting item in there. You happy with where he is on this top 10?
No problem. He'll have the right. He'll have his opportunity to climb up the list come Saturday.
And speaking of another horse in that exact same category, number 7 on the list is Hades. This horse victorious last time out. This was a race that was known as much for the no-show of Fierceness as it was of anything positive that he did, I have to say. But at the same time, he only can beat who turn up against you. It's not his fault that Fierceness was out of form. Hades goes in the Florida Derby on Saturday. What do you think we're going to see from him?
We'll see. I mean, look, I think last time was the time with Hades, but if Fierceness doesn't show up, Conquest Warrior comes back a little bit too quick. Suddenly, Hades is loose on the front end with a horse who's shown his way around that racetrack before.
Let's talk about the Louisiana Derby winner who shows up at number 6 on our list. That's Catching Freedom. You like this horse a ton going into the Louisiana Derby, JK. What do you think of him coming out?
Yeah, look, he's one that I think that what he did that day was impressive. He's going to need to kind of figure out the gate. He needs to get out of there a little bit sooner, in my opinion, if he wants to have a chance in the Kentucky Derby. But he deserves to be where he is on the list right now.
It was a bit more workmanlike for me, but like you say, how can he not be on the list? Winning at the mile and 3/16, notching a very impressive, by this crop standards, 97 on the Beyer speed figure scale. I think it all makes sense. Let's take a moment to tell you about our latest sponsor, our friends at Free Rein Coffee, founded by Cole Hauser, ripped from Yellowstone. Free Rein makes smooth coffee full of flavor to fuel folks to get up and get after it, something horse players know a whole lot about. You can check them out at Free Reign Coffee Company. And here's the thing, you can use the promo code MONEY20, money20, for 20% off. I know I'm a big fan of everything they have going on. JK is as well. Check out our friends at Free Reign Coffee. Now back to the top 10. The top 10 continues with a horse that we had on hold in a recent list, our most recent update, because we weren't quite sure what was going on with Fierceness. He's back. He's been working well. He's going to be your favorite for the Florida Derby. Incredibly important, historically relevant prep race happening this Saturday. What's your current thought on how Fierceness stacks up, JK, with the rest of the runners in our Derby top 10?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it in our Florida Derby preview if you want to check that out. We won't bore you here with the in-depth conversation about Fierceness. You got to make a decision. My decision is that he is going to run well, and if he does that, he's going to vault himself a little bit higher on this list come next week.
Number 4, a horse who's taken a very untraditional route towards the Kentucky Derby, but one that I know both you and I like quite a bit. Number 4 is Deterministic. Impressive Saratoga winner. Obviously, something went wrong, went away for a while, made the comeback race in the Gotham. There were rumors that he was only running in the Gotham because there wasn't an allowance race available. Didn't matter to Deterministic. He was living up to his name in those final strides, scything through the field and getting up for the victory. He currently stands as number 4 on the list. Unusual for a horse with his profile, but this might just be the kind of year where a runner like Deterministic makes all the sense in the world when it comes to the Kentucky Derby. Are you still a fan? Are you happy with him above Fierceness at this point?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. You know, what Fierceness did last time based on what Deterministic did this time in his most recent race. I think you have to have him ahead of there. But like I said, it's what's great about these Derby preps is it's going to all kind of shake itself out and come the first Saturday of May. We'll have a pretty clear list, I think. But we'll see what Fierceness does on Saturday. We'll see what Deterministic does when he comes back. I think he'll probably appreciate some added distance as well.
Number 3 on our list is Timberlake. You've been the bandwagon. You've been driving the bandwagon. You've been making sure that the bandwagon stayed in action when others weren't so sure. He's up all the way to number 3. He took plenty of money in the last Derby future pool. What are your most recent thoughts on him, especially vis-a-vis the horses we have ahead of him? Is he high enough on this list?
Look, when they got in the gate the first Friday in November, I thought Timberlake was the best 2-year-old in the country. And he had a little bit of a trip, ran okay, but wasn't nearly as good as Fierceness on the day. Then Timberlake came back and he did what Fierceness didn't do. He kind of did his job in his first start as a 3-year-old. So I'm looking for him to take another step forward. He will have to take another step forward, but it feels like that might be something he'll do.
We should mention that this top 10 list is made by Eric DeCoster, who works for us over at In the Money Media. He does a fantastic job putting this together, and you can read plenty of his writing for free over at inthemoneypodcast.com. When Eric presented us the new version of the list, he said, guys, basically, when it comes to 1 and 2, you pick. I feel like it could go in either direction. We made the call by putting Dornoch as the number 2 runner on this list, made that winning return to the races. It wasn't all that visually impressive. I actually had the pleasure of running into one of the owners who suggested that Dornoch's the type of horse that sort of runs to the competition and maybe is capable than running a lot faster on the clock than we saw the last day. That's going to have to be the case if he's going to win the Kentucky Derby. Tell me your thoughts on Dornoch.
Yeah, look, I mean, we didn't learn a lot. We said that last time in the Fountain of Youth. We didn't really learn a lot. We saw what we expected to see. A lot of the main competition scratched that earlier that day. And look, we'll see. He's going to have another chance to try to prove who he is. But I think for the time being, based on the form of his races and the form of other races, we have to elevate Sierra Leone to number 1 because Sierra Leone did beat Catching Freedom, who went on to win the Louisiana Derby, a 100-point Derby prep race, and has been right there with Dornoch. So for me, it's a Sierra Leone number 1 and a Dornoch number 2.
You're stealing my thunder, JK. I was going to make that a big reveal because I do have a little bit more business to tell people about before we get to that. For one, we're going to do another comment contest. I want to hear your case for who should be number 1. Tell us who's number 1 on your Derby list. Give us one sentence as to why we're going to feature you on another video. Also want to let folks know that this is the best time of year to sign up for our In the Money Plus service. Not only will you get all this extra daily coverage of Keeneland, one of the premier racing meets in all of America, but you'll get our Derby package at no extra cost, just for the $20 that 1 month costs. InTheMoneyPodcast.com/plus, the place to go if you want to check that out. And now we get to our reveal that's already been revealed. Number one is Sierra Leone, and I think you already made the key point, JK. That last run of Sierra Leone's, we knew it was a very hard race to make a figure for. The figure, all the figure makers we spoke with said it was more or less of a guess type of an effort based on the track conditions and how long that card was and how the weather sort of changed throughout the day. To get a big form boost like horses that Sierra Leone beat coming back to run so well in the Louisiana Derby, I'm content to go ahead and stick him as our number one contender. The international markets, the Derby pool futures, they all agree as well. They have this horse in the order of 6 or 7 to 1. Since we already know you agree with him as your number one, what do you think of that price around 6 to 1, 7 to 1 on Sierra Leone at this point?
I think sometimes when you get to these single digits with these Derby futures at this point, it's a little bit late. I'd rather just kind of wait, try to find a way to get 5 to 1 to 6 to 1 on the day. I will say he deserves to be number one. And the other thing about him in comparison to the two is if there's a trainer whose track record in big races is more dependable, we all know that that's going to be Chad Brown. And so you'd like to think that a horse like this is probably going to continue to improve and continue to likely make all the right moves along the way. I think he's a very legit contender to get the roses draped over him at about 7 p.m. on the first Saturday in May.
We've got a ton more content coming down the pike, people. You're going to find it here on our YouTube channel. We encourage you to subscribe, click notifications. That helps us out a lot. Drop a comment in there. Participate in our comment contest. These are all things that help us out and help us bring this content to you. Hopefully, a bunch more winners along the way as well. For JK, I'm PTF. We're In the Money Media. May you win all your photos.